What the third man argument tells us about extroverted thinking. The third man argument is the argument against Plato's theory of forms. That if the forms are what causes sensible things, then what causes the forms? Must there not be an even higher tier of forms then? If this is true, it leads to an infinite regress, and the theory of forms will seemingly have to be abandoned. This video will argue that the third man argument is actually a pretty poor piece of philosophy that shows some of the shortcoming of TE vis-a-vis TI. Some viewers may therefore feel that the video is biased in favor of TI, but one could just as easily make a video which had it the other way around, showing the shortcomings of TI in the face of TE. That's just not what's going to take place in this video. Anyway, on with the show. The negative aspects of TE are sometimes caricatured as a no-nonsense, willful ignorance of nuance, intellectual inflexibility, and a bias in favor of conceiving everything as essentially material in nature. Of course, such caricatures are often exaggerated, but in the case of the third man argument, they do hold some truth. As I understand it, it is unknown whether the argument originated with Aristotle, but in any case, Aristotle certainly did his part to popularize and develop it, and Aristotle, in spite of his genius, often really does fit the caricature of an ETJ type. A simple way of putting the argument is to imagine 3 elephants in a zoo. Plato's theory of form suggests that there is an abstract, perfect form of elephant, which exists outside the physical world and which we only have access to through our cognition. According to Plato, it is this form which produces the physical elephants in the zoo. The third man argument then says that if we accept the idea that the 3 elephants all contain the elephant form, then we can add the form to the collection to create a class of 4 things: the 3 elephants and the form, which is expressed through them. And then we can say there must be another form, expressed in the elephants and the original form, one that they all share. So we can add that and we have a group of 5 things, and we can keep adding things forever. And so we get the infinite regress that all parties agree is an embarrassment for the theory of forms. But such an argument shows some of the negative aspects of TE. Most seriously, the argument seems to dismiss Plato's ideas out of hand while simultaneously misunderstanding his theory. Firstly, it shows the natural TE bias towards thinking about things, even imaginary things, as objects much like real-world tangible objects. With the third man argument, abstract ideas about objects are treated like they are more or less identical to the objects themselves. The form of elephant is treated as just another elephant, which is a straw man. This also closely relates to my second point about TE. As a function, TE doesn't particularly enjoy abstracting away from the material world in search of truth. And it is this extremely biased reasoning that leads to pretty poor philosophical arguments like the third man argument. A TI or TP type would be more sympathetic to Plato's abstracting style and would be better able to understand his views. Plato's forms are not synonymous with the material objects they give rise to, since Plato very plainly says that they are ideas with no material substance, no matter how much a TJ type would like them to have one. Let us try a thought experiment. Think of an elephant. Can you imagine a tiny elephant the size of a poodle? Yes. The size of a mountain? Yes. Most people probably can. What about a pink elephant or a yellow one? Again, yes, we can imagine these things. We can also imagine an elephant without a trunk or an elephant with a snake as a tail. This goes to show that we can change quite a lot about our mental picture of an elephant before our brain starts to tell us that this is not an elephant anymore. So this shows us that our mental conception of elephantness doesn't have to match sensible, real-world elephants directly. There can apply one set of rules to sensible classes of objects and another set of rules to supersensible objects. But as Jung also says in Psychological Types, TE has a preference for making all classes of objects conform to the same rules and governance. INFJs differ from INTPs and ISTPs because NI is more likely to see the forms as an objective reality existing as noumenal things in themselves, while TI, with its structured, classifying nature, is more apt to understand the forms as a subjective, taxonomical phenomena, a tool our minds use to help us compress and classify information into useful axiomatic ideas. Because even though there are tons of problems with the theory of forms, it's true what Plato suggests in the Parmenides, that without these general ideas, meaningful conversation about complex things would be impossible. In short, Plato could just have said, the forms cannot partake in formfulness themselves, for they are what gives form to things. The form of a tree is not itself a tree, nor does it have anything in common with trees in a way we could understand. It is not like a tree in substance, as it has none. It is not like a tree in appearance, as it has none. And it is not like a tree in shape, as it has none. So the form of the tree cannot be part of the class of things sensible trees, and you have entirely misunderstood my philosophy.